everyone, my disciples in the Church of the Noob, my sanctimonious squids, and my faithful fast boys. It is your boy, your yammy dude, your shammy cube, your whammy lube. Thank you so much for joining in service today. I am your heavenly father, Papa Yam. I have invited you here today to discuss the 7 deadly motorcycle sins, the 7 ways in which the blasphemous Harley devil son wants to lead you astray. He wants to pull you from the light and grace of our deity, the supreme being, Valentino Rossi. There will be no jokes today, no memes, only the holy word that will earn you a rightful place in the podium in heaven, the promised land, free of electric motorcycles or rogue self-driving Teslas. There is a halo of smog that lingers above the heads of angels to remind the inhabitants of this world the merits of ICE engines. Prayer, meditation, these actions aren't short-sighted. To truly advance the next stage of enlightenment, you must show your trust in Him and hit the rev limiter in 6th gear. And as the fabric of our physical world begins to dismantle in the end days, you will be invited on the saddle of the golden boost that will yeet you to the rightful place in the great twisty road in the sky. Sheesh, alright, enough of that gag. That was exhausting. We're talking 7 deadly motorcycle sins today. Let's get into it. As always, please hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you stay up to date. The first deadly motorcycle sin is vanity. The clearest example of this is a rider's unwillingness to wear proper gear. While some people don't wear proper gear because it's expensive or think it's unnecessary, and some people just don't like the way it looks. Weird. They'd rather look like they're headed to a backyard barbecue in shorts and flip-flops at the risk of a gruesome skin graft or maybe a few amputated toes. The Jixer Squid outfit is an extreme example, but you get the idea. Harley guys sure seem to love leather, but they also seem to pass on wearing a helmet. If it's my time to go, it's my time to go, brother. I've literally heard people say that as if it's their predetermined fate to die by blunt force trauma as their skull is obliterated into a million pieces on the pavement. Wear your freaking gear, people. A DOT/ECE helmet, gloves, boots, jacket, and riding pants if you're a real one. A less deadly but still sinful form of motorcycle vanity is outfitting your bike with the cheapest and tackiest eBay or Amazon parts, like LED underglow and anodized accessories with any skulls on it. Skulls are terrible. Stop putting skulls on your bike. It looks silly. You're not 6 years old. It's also not the best look to cover your bike in stickers. It's like every used bike you see on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace is covered in anodized parts, skull accessories, and Fox Racing stickers. It's the worst, and you probably won't be let into motorcycle heaven if you do that. The next deadly sin for motorcyclists is conceit. Essentially pride, but I didn't want to reuse pride as that is already a Christian sin, and I'm trying to keep this original. Conceit for the motorcyclist could refer to being overconfident on your bike, pushing your limits beyond your capability or skill set because of overconfidence. This could lead to riding too fast for the road, being unaware or incapable of anticipating road conditions, obstacles, and other traffic. Riding too aggressively can also cause you to misjudge the proper entry speed for a curve and cause a crash as well. This is often compounded by riding with another group of riders who are better or more experienced than you, and then in an attempt to prove yourself to your elder squids, you ride way beyond your skill level. You just gotta ride your own ride, or else you'll find yourself riding straight to the morgue with a one-way ticket to motorcycle purgatory. Another way conceit corrupts a young developing rider is by convincing themselves that they can handle a motorcycle that is too big or too powerful. Just because you rode dirt bikes when you were young does not automatically mean you can handle a 200 horsepower leader bike. Certain larger bikes have switchable power modes, which can make them more approachable if you're coming from a smaller bike, but there still is no good reason to start on a 600 or 1000cc sport bike lest you desire smiting from the motorcycle gods. The third deadly motorcycle sin I want to share with you all is neglect. By this, I mean neglecting proper maintenance of your motorcycle, which can result in the destruction of your bike or harm to your earthly vessel, your sweet mortal coil. You want to make sure you regularly check your motorcycle's fluids and ensure they are topped up and changed when necessary. For most motorcycles that are past their break-in period and using synthetic oil, you can usually get away with changing your oil just once a season as long as you're not riding more than 5,000 miles a year. Any more than that, I'd probably recommend suggesting it and changing it more than once a season, especially if you're doing a lot of aggressive riding. Some bikes also like to burn oil, so make sure you keep an eye on that and keep it topped off. If you bought a bike secondhand, you're unfamiliar with its service history, you'll also want to keep an eye for the oil to be determined if it has an abnormal consumption or leaks. Any engine that has been neglected and run with old or low oil is destined to a cataclysmic finale. If your engine is water-cooled, you'll want to keep an eye on your coolant level and make sure it is full and flushed when necessary, according to your service Bible. It is also good to check the color of your brake fluid every so often. You shouldn't experience any loss of brake fluid since it is a closed system, but it will begin to deteriorate and break down over time and impede your brake feel and effectiveness. It's also important to make sure your chain is clean and lubed. If you're a cruiser boy with a belt drive, you don't have to worry too much about this, but check it out occasionally and look for any cracking or wear. If you're an ADV or sport touring chungus with a shaft-driven motorcycle, then you don't have to do much of anything. It is important not to neglect or postpone any necessary valve services either. If you ride a Ducati, we'll pass around the Desmo donation collection plate for the next service. Lastly, and potentially most important, the safety of the rider is to make sure your tires are properly inflated and have good tread life. Tires carry the burden of being the only contact patch between the combined 700 pounds of motorcycle and rider, so it stands to reason to make sure they are in good health and keep you shiny side up. Next on the list of deadly motorcycle sins is visibility, or rather, invisibility, I guess. All motorcycles need to remember that cars cannot see you on the road and assume your visibility is to welcome death. Aggressive, right? Well, we're talking deadly sins today. It comes with the territory. Some important ways to stay visible on the road are to choose your lane positioning carefully. It is very easy to ride a motorcycle and fit very neatly inside of a driver's blind spot. It's a great place to ride if you like the idea of being sideswapped or mangled up like a ball of aluminum foil on the side of the road for the paramedics to unravel. It is also advisable to try and stay ahead of traffic and not get stuck between cars in a stop-and-go situation. Stop-and-go traffic is where drivers like to stare at their phones and swipe through Tinder profiles or TikTok dance videos and drive into anything that happens to be in front of them. Cars, motorcycles, children, the elderly, you name it. All because the driver's attention span has become so abbreviated that even a single moment of idleness sends them into an existential panic, as every dark thought they've been avoiding for the last 10 years comes flooding into their brain like a stampede of wildebeests, if they don't numb themselves with digital methadone at every possible opportunity. You don't want to find yourself as the main event in a distracted driver target practice. This is also something to consider when sitting at a red light, and make sure to keep your brake lights on and pulse the lever to make it flash while sitting at a light, and make sure to keep your bike in gear in case a self-driving Tesla approaches from behind and you have to make a speedy getaway. Deadly sin number 5 is heedlessness, and by this I mean not paying attention to obstacles on the road, specifically road conditions. When you're on public roads, you don't get to have the luxury of a closed environment like you do on a racetrack. Super basic road debris like sand, loose gravel, or even grass clippings can be enough to send your precious motorcycle to a farm upstate. So you want to make sure to take heed of the road conditions in front of you. The same thing can be said for unforeseen weather conditions. Make sure to consider the way changing weather affects road conditions and modify your riding accordingly. Switch your bike over to rain mode if you have to adjust the throttle and brake input as to not lose traction. Riding in the rain really isn't that bad as long as there isn't a bunch of standing water, but it is still something to be cognizant of. Sometimes it's easy to get wrapped up in the excitement of bike night. There is romance in the air, emotions are running high, and by the end of the night you've realized you've sucked down one too many wine coolers. Don't ride your motorcycle home. The next deadly sin is overindulgence. If history has taught us anything, motorcyclists or bikers of a certain lifestyle like to party. They like to have rallies, terrorize the town, get drunk, do burnouts, and so on. And while bikers have gotten a little bit more sensible in certain sense, they still have the camaraderie that comes with hanging out with other enthusiasts and having a good time. But if things start to go off the rails, you gotta know when it's time to call your mom to come pick you up. Another example of overindulgence could just be overextending yourself on the bike. If you've been riding all day in the hot sun or you're riding into the night on a long haul journey, you gotta know when it's time to call it quits and park the bike. Motorcycling requires a lot of focus and attention, both mentally and physically, so if your body is sore or tired or your cognitive function is beginning to fade, it might be time to pull off at the truck stop and make friends with some of the hardest working men and women in America. And the last deadly sin on our list today is a bit of a silly entry. I'm calling it acquisitiveness, or buying too many damn motorcycles. And hey, buying too many bikes does not kill you, but your wife might. It's like a Jex Foxworthy joke or something. I feel sorry about that one. But regardless, whether you can afford to own a ton of motorcycles or not, it takes a lot of time and energy to keep 5 bikes healthy and happy. Ask me how I know. You have to wash them and feed them and help them with their homework and buy them a dog, even though they already said you couldn't get a dog, but then you have to give you that look and you just can't resist. But really, I know a couple people who have like 4 or 5 bikes, and one always has a dead battery, one has a mouse nest in the airbox, and one has dry rotted tires, and only one of their 2 favorite bikes get ridden very often. And hey, there's nothing wrong with that. It's your life. I mean, have a handful of personal bikes, but they each have to have their specific purpose, and hell, I make motorcycle content living. What do you expect? Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed it and have not already. Do you guys do any of these motorcycle sins? Let me know down below in the comments. This one was fun to make. Fact: male giraffes will headbutt females in the bladder until they pee. They then drink the urine, tasting it to determine whether the female is ovulating. Kinky. Goodbye.